In this video I'm going to be talking about the brass footrail around the bar of my magical man cave and the sorts of things that you need to think about if you're going to go for a brass footrail as well. There are a surprising number of things that you need to think about if you're going to go for a brass footrail, or frankly any kind of footrail. But what I'm thinking in my magical man cave is that I need a brass footrail to kind of tie everything together, to make it look like it's a real pub. Now bear in mind I haven't quite finished the flooring yet, which means that I haven't quite finished the skirting yet, which means that some of the finishes on this look a little bit hokey. But the brass rail is now where it should be. It's all tied into the bar. It's not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to decorate around it now. So the very first thing I wanted to talk about is these end caps here. These end caps not only make the brass rail itself a lot safer because there's no sharp burrs or anything, it's all moulded and it all looks lovely. It gets basically friction fit into the end of the rail and it makes it all look nice at each end. As you might expect as a finishing touch, they go on last. So let's get on with talking about the rest of the stuff. So when you're measuring things up, and to make sure that you've got the right length of pole, not only do you need to measure your bar itself, and especially if it's off the wall like this, you also need to make sure that the length of pole that you select has enough distance to allow it to come off the bar as well. The supports that I've got for my brass footrail actually have a distance of about 10 centimeters off the wall, and those are these supports here. The supports themselves go flush with the floor and sit on the floor, but they also get bolted into the wood of the bar itself. The way that I built my bar, I was quite lucky because I thought ahead for the first time possibly ever, and I thought, well, I'll build the bar out of 18mm plywood, which is probably over egging the pudding. It probably doesn't need to be that much, but it was quite useful for me because then I could just screw the fixings straight into the bar. So that was quite nice and neat. The screws in it, by the way, you'll see that they are black. I will replace them eventually with brass ones, but I kind of messed it up a little bit when I started putting them in, burred the heads and that sort of thing. Problem with brass screws, of course, is that they're not particularly sturdy, so you can't screw and unscrew and screw and unscrew many times. It can cause some problems, so that's why I've got some black ones. They're a lot more sturdy, but I will replace them eventually when I can be bothered to get around to doing that. So we've got the end pieces, we've got the supports. Next up is the rail itself. So again, make sure that that length is correct, and once you've done that and made sure that you're coming off the bar enough, so then you can make sure that when you come off the bar a little bit and you've got that end piece, which does take up a little bit of space, that you've got enough bar to get around that corner, but not too much. And this is the other thing, you need to make sure that they are enough to get around the corner but not too much, because otherwise it's going to come out too much and then you're not going to be able to get around again. To accommodate some of this little nuance, and it is really quite a little nuance, you have one of these corner pieces. Now this corner piece is actually quite clever, the way that it hinges and moves. Thankfully, it's not going to move now that it's in place, but when you're loading this thing into the bar, it does give a bit of flexibility, and that's kind of what it's designed to do. Of course, you might not have a right angle bar like me. You might have one with maybe 5 corners, and they're maybe not 90 degrees, in which case you just open it up wider or more shallow, and it should accommodate that. But again, you need to make sure that when you are calculating things, and ideally do this on a floor plan, you write out where your bar is, make out all the measurements, then come off by say 10-15 centimeters depending on the supports that you get, and then you can work out the angles and the lengths of pipe and all of that sort of stuff, and it'll be absolutely fine. In terms of where to get it, that can be quite tricky, and you can certainly do it on Etsy and places like that. It might not be the cheapest place, but I got mine from House of Brass, houseofbrass.co.uk, and then just have a look on there. You can find all of the fittings, all of the lengths and everything. You've got to allow a reasonable amount of money for these things though. You might be quite surprised to learn that just my fairly small amount of brass footrail costs £350 for all of the attachments and all of that sort of stuff, plus the pipe and delivery. Delivery, you do actually charge something because it's quite heavy stuff. Now when you're installing this stuff, it's definitely easier with 2 people. That said, I did install mine on my own, myself. I did sweat a fair amount and it was a bit of a pain. I think I might have ended up with a splinter in my hand as well, which I did get out eventually using a pin, and it wasn't particularly painful. But I would definitely recommend having 2 people, and use builder's gloves as well to make sure that you don't get anything nasty in your skin. So there you go, if you want to fit a brass footrail in your own pub or man cave, that's how to do it. If you like this video, click like, subscribe, ding that bell and all of that sort of cool stuff. And if you want to find out how to floor out your man cave, have a look at this video. I'll be back next time with some more magical awesomeness, but until next time, as always,
Stay magical.